Welcome to SOULutions, when men come out the shadows to testify, giving tips in manhood, honor the codes of integrity, and give out real solutions for soul survival. Today, we have on the show a purpose-driven man. Through education and experience, he's a man who's equipped in leading the dialect in our advancement, a formidable man who can represent a seat at the table for us all. A man who leads with the art of his actions, a disciplined man who sees things to completion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the father, author, entrepreneur, mental health advocate, and owner of KingNod.com, Mr. Dash Hudson.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Thank you.
How you
Thank
doing,
you so much.
man? We're super
doing
excited.
great.
Are you ready to drop these gems and answer these questions today?
I'm like I said, because I live a life, even in my energy. Even when I'm excited, I'm still calm, right? So, but I flow off of balance, right? So no matter where I am in the day or in life, I'm always mentally ready and prepared.
Absolutely. That's a gem right there. Let's get it going. What person did you meet or see that gave you the drive towards the man you are today? Who or what defined you?
It is different, but for me, Muhammad Ali, when I was young, because I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of people become what they see at a very young age. And before you actually have the time and ability to grow, you become the things you see when you had a limited amount of information. So in my neighborhood, a lot of men were broken. A lot of men lacked motivation. So for me, Muhammad Ali was one of the first men that I seen with confidence, with love, with pride. So just those images. And of course, I wasn't born when he was actually fighting. It's a channel. It was like channel 31, like, because we didn't even have cable. And it was something like Plastic Sports. So it was all the sport shows from back in the day. And Muhammad Ali changed my life because I didn't know, not that I didn't know you could be confident and speak with love and speak with strength. So for him, he was a person that really changed and shifted my life.
Let's talk about that moment. Let's talk about the moment it shifted your life. What made you spring into action? What was the first thing? Because we have a tendency of saying, I want to do all of this now and get it done now. But it's a process to get to this level. What shifted you? What was the first steps you made when you were a young boy after you seen this?
It wasn't really like instant, right? It was gradual steps. It was gradual steps and because like I say, I have a deep story. I have a real story. So I lack self-esteem and motivation. I lack self-awareness. I lacked identity. I didn't know who I was. I grew up in a kind of chaotic situation. So like I said, to see that image of balance, it was the foundation, right? So it was the foundation, and that alone was powerful for me, because all I needed was an opportunity to start to reflect, an opportunity to start to have the thoughts of confidence. So not that I just was confident out of the blue. It was the first time that I had the opportunity to feel, to think with confidence, to embrace that image. So I would say, like, I allowed myself to let a seed grow. And with that seed, that became the foundation to everything that I am today.
Absolutely. With those gradual steps you've taken, for those who lived a similar lifestyle where you at right now, what would you say the first two steps could be the foundation to building that stone? What are two things they can put in an actionable stance?
Allowing yourself to challenge your comfort zone, right? Because a lot of us, we find a comfort zone and we want to be comfortable and we want to feel like we know the routine of life. But sometimes you could be in a routine that's not beneficial for you, or you could be in a routine of normality, right? So sometimes we grow up, and the internet is amazing because the internet shows you the world. The internet gives you many different images and you type it in. But when I was younger, it wasn't, wasn't really the internet. Well, it wasn't cell phones and the internet, and you didn't have so many different images, so many different perspectives of life. So even in all of our current situation, challenge your comfort zone. Don't just be, right? Don't just whether it's your family, whether it's your environment, don't just settle for what you see, right? Don't just settle for where your family is. Don't just settle for your current situation. Challenge yourself, challenge your situation, challenge your mind, challenge the way you feel, your emotions, challenge your thoughts. And that's what I would say. Like, challenge your comfort zone. And another one, create a system where you could track your progress, right? And that could look like many things. So I have many different strategies and blueprints. Uh, but but if you want to be better in behavior, if you want to be better in just your life, all in all, like I always say, compete with your progress, right? So do the best you can do in this moment. Do the best you can do this week. Do the best you can do with a month, and document it, right? So whatever you did great this week, whatever you did that was great this month, document it, and then do it again, and then do it again, right? And then you'll see yourself getting better, because one thing, when you document your journey, you can't lie about what you put on the paper. So it's just like a basketball player that say, hey man, I scored 100 points, right? Or I had 50 rebounds, right? When you go to the stats, they could clearly see whether you had 50 rebounds or whether you scored 100 points. So if you want to change, if you want to grow, if you want to stop doing habits or stop doing things that's not benefiting you in life, you have to document it, right? Because when you document it, you can't lie to yourself.
Absolutely. I am in agreement of that. In fact, my next question for you was, do you have a vision board?
No, not really. I don't really do vision boards. Uh, I wouldn't say a photographic memory or whatever the case, but I'm real disciplined in my mind. I'm real disciplined in my mind. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. If I say I'm gonna challenge myself, I'm gonna challenge myself. So visually, I may not lay it out in a format of a board, but I lay it out in my mind, and I lay it out in my actions, and that's how I move forward in life.
Well, this is called an audible question. This is not on the docket. Bah, 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 bah. I like to ask you this question. Are you a person who is careful about what they commit themselves to because they know they see things to completion? So, for example, you have an idea, but you keep it to yourself because if you tell someone, hey, I'm thinking about doing so and so, are you then committing yourself outwardly to say, I'm going to do this?
Not really, man. I'm a firm believer of planting a seed, sometime in myself, sometime in life, right? So we don't understand how powerful social media is. Sometimes people are so caught up in the moment. So you wake up 8 in the morning and you say, man, I'm having a bad day. Think about it. Your day just started. So now let's say you make a mistake and have a good day. And now when you go home or when you're on lunch, you pick your phone up and now you're reminded that that you're having a bad day. So you introduce that energy back into your life. So sometimes I'll post things that I haven't done yet that I'm going to do, right? I always believe, like, it's nothing like seeing your imagination in person. So sometimes, for the most part, when you think it, when you feel it, when you connect to it, I plant the seed of that, right? So it's so many things that I said, man, look, I'm about to do this. And I just post it, right? Because just like reminding yourself that you're having a bad day, even when you see Facebook and how Facebook show you your memories, it's so many things when I see the memories pop up, like, wow, I knew that already, or I did that already. Because every day you're meeting life. If you capture a thought, if that thought turns into a feeling, now if you turn that feeling and thought into a behavior where you create a habit, you're going to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I'll tell somebody, I'll tell a person, I'll post it, I'll share it, because I want to create the energy of it existing already. So that's what I do on a daily basis. That's what I do with life, because, you know, they did a study where they studied the minds of children playing like uh, Call of Duty and soldiers, right? And the same brain activity went off in the children as the soldiers, right? So your body is capturing the experience, while your mind is capturing the experience. And we have the ability to do that every day. right? If you feel successful, if you feel confident, if you feel like you're going to accomplish everything, right? Start living it and feeling it and connecting it to your mind and connecting it to your heart. And all you're doing now is waiting to obtain it in the physical. But I live there. I live there. If I see it, if I capture it mentally, if I feel it emotionally, I have already obtained it. Like I obtain it, I feel it. I know, you know, and that's literally that trains my mind, right? So I can't tell you, like even my son with his first book, we created pictures that came to life. And that was one of the pages. Like it's nothing like seeing your imagination in person. Like when you say, hey, I'm going to do this, or this is going to happen, some of the actual pages came to life. We've been to, like, we painted traveling. Well, we had an artist, Sylvester Walford, rest in peace because he passed. But he used to, the pictures he drew of us on the plane and traveling, that turned into Namibia, Johannesburg, that turned into Tanzania, that turns into Dubai, Mexico, and talk shows, and everything came to fruition. But we lived it in our imagination first. So I'm big on putting it in the world and creating it in energy first.
Absolutely. I love what you said about meeting the day and bringing your imagination to life. Around that circumference, when you're moving with that energy, that positive energy, what type of affirmations are you telling yourself?
Not really an affirmation person. Like I say, you experience life in three ways: either mentally, emotionally, or physically. Affirmations are to mentally program your mind, right? So just like a song or just like a hook, and you're saying this affirmation over and over and over and over and over, and you're jump starting your mind, right? So even when we feel, or we based on what you connect to, that's how you're going to process life. So people who sometimes are trapped in their feelings, that's because like they're interacting with life emotionally, right? So I like to say 30, 30, 30. I live 30% in my mind, 30% in my heart, 30% in my body. And that's how I stay in alignment, right? So when you're out of alignment and you're overwhelmed mentally, that's because you're living too much in your head. You're living too much in your mind, right? So I flow through life. It's not about affirmations. It's about understanding how I need to process a thought, how I need to process an action, and what part of my body does this certain level of success or life depend on. Sometimes I'm going to need my heart more. Sometimes I'm going to need my mind. Sometimes I'm going to need my body. Even when you injure, like if I go play basketball and I sprain my ankle, you get in a car accident, now you need your mind to get your body back in shape. Sometimes you're going to need your heart to get your mind in order. So some people are in relationships and they love a person so much that the person mistreats them, the person neglects them, the person disrespects them. But because you love the person and you have these deep feelings, now you can't get your mind back in track. But, and I always say, if your mind and body don't get along, you are your biggest enemy. So it's in that organization first of how I do everything, knowing how to categorize life. Okay, is this something that my mind can conquer? Is this something that my body can conquer? Is this something that my heart can conquer? And I also protect myself that way, right? I protect, like, men, all men. You have to understand, even when you interact with the opposite sex or whatever, some people see a woman and she just looks beautiful and they're like, wow, I love her, right? And you didn't put her through a mental test. You didn't put her through a mental test to make sure she's going to love you mentally, emotionally. She has empathy, compassion, commitment, right? So the minute you allow the physicality of her body to become why you're going to make a choice, now you're going to run into other issues. So I keep myself safe mentally. You have to pass my mind before I allow you in my heart, right? So with some things, even when it comes to vision or even when it comes to where I want to be, I know how to operate it in my mind first, and then I know how to gradually allow it to process my emotional space. And then if I got to put in work, physical, if I got to get up every day and be consistent, like it's cooperation, and it's like I say, being in alignment. So I'm more in alignment, not really affirmation driven, just in alignment with the goal, in alignment with the dream, in alignment with peace, love. And I know how to generate love. right? So some people emotionally dehydrated and they need love and they're waiting to receive it. But if you give love, you create it, right? So I know how to give love, to experience love. I know how to give motivation, to have motivation. I know how to give opportunity, to experience opportunity, right? So it's all of those domino effects of how I process and see life.
Absolutely. With that organization and that flow and that balance, were there any books along the way that you read or any life experiences you like to share that helped you get to this balanced level to give you this foresight?
I definitely have some books, but life is a book, you know. I grew up, I didn't even know how to read, to the age of 19. I graduated from high school and I couldn't read the diploma. So at a very young age, I learned how to process life. And for most of my life, in the beginning, I never taught. I used to always just observe.
Mm.
So, but As a Man Thinketh was a great book for me. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's another book. It Didn't Start With You. Another book by Russell Simmons, Do You. Uh, and then like I homeschooled my son as well. So my son read so many books that I just sat and listened to. But life, like nothing more than life. Like life is my highest level of education, and I could just watch kids interact and learn. I could watch um birds, I could watch anything and it becomes a part of my education. So and like sometimes it could be an emotional process. It could be many different processes on how I just capture information, because that's life in a nutshell, right? Being able to, because it's all food, right? So when you say what someone eat physically, like we eat mentally, we eat emotionally. So I'm watching what I watch, I'm watching who and what I follow, because it's all a part of a diet. So when you're at a certain level of peace, you have to interact with things that maintain your peace, right? Or keep you balanced or keep you healthy. So I wouldn't just say it's books alone. I wouldn't say it's just movies alone or documentaries alone. I just invite life. I invite lessons. I invite things that feel good. I welcome people who teach me. I learn from so many different people, so many different cultures, so many different conversations. And like I said, I'm big on implementing conversations. I know how to take bits and pieces of a conversation or an interaction and turn that into like I'm great at processing information, because like you have knowledge and then you have wisdom, right? The knowledge is just the content, right? So you could read a book, but that don't mean you become it, right? So becoming the book, turning it into a lifestyle, knowing how to extract the information and making it a part of your life. Some people read, but like, they say reading comprehension. Some people don't comprehend. Some people don't capture, and some people don't become the information. I'm great at processing the information, and that's in any form that I encounter it. So I'm always looking for information in everything. Like
I
I'm
love
trying to
the
give you an
fact that,
example.
yeah, I really love
Yeah.
the fact that you're always looking for information. It's sort of like animals. Animals don't have the opportunity to read books, but they observe
Mhm.
the nature, they observe what is what and what is formidable for them and what is not. And I
Mhm.
love that concept. Before we had even read, cavemen had to observe, right? So I
Mhm.
think that's a great tool that you just shared. If you think of any examples, stop me and let me know, and then we'll continue that flow as well. So here we
Right.
are. We saw Muhammad Ali on TV. He gave you some light. He gave you some incentive to get up and start gradually making those steps. And throughout life, you learn to go with the flow with a 30% rule of each thing and let things flow and let it be a river that collects the good stuff and wastes the bad stuff and keep your mind, body, and spirit collected.
I don't believe not good and bad. Not
Just
not
flow.
really. Yeah, like when you name it, when you title it, when you give it an energy, it becomes that. So I like
Absolutely.
I
Just the
really wouldn't
flow.
say good and bad.
Through all of that, through the man you are today, what did you sacrifice to get here?
Yeah. Myself, right? Because like when you say me, right? even you, like when you go, I'm right. Sometimes people go to school, they become the degree. People get a job, they become the job. People become a parent. We get locked in these characters, we get locked in these titles, right? So I I never stays the same. I always changes if you're growing, right? When I say I am not the same I from 5 years ago. I has evolution, right? Even sometimes like people go, oh man, you lost your mind, right? That is a blessing, especially if your mind is not benefiting you, right? So I used to be a dark person. I used to be a cold person because I've been through a lot, molested at 6 years old, foster home, crazy hospitals. I've been through a lot of pain. That pain, um, I was in prison of that pain. I was afraid to express myself. I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't have a father, right? So I turned into a cold person. And that's what happens when we go through trauma, when we don't know how to express our feelings. Emotion is energy in motion. So when you're trapped, when your feelings are trapped, when your tears are trapped, I was a cold person. I I I I express myself through pain, right? So feelings are going to come out one way or the other. So because I didn't know how to express them verbally, I expressed them physically, right? I had a lot of anger. I wanted to hurt people. I was a bully. I was angry because I was holding all of this anger in. So when I say I was in prison because of my because of the pain. I was in prison because of my experiences. So when I say I had to sacrifice, I had to sacrifice that person, and I had to lose my mind because my mind was broken, my mind was damaged, my mind was limited, my mind was trapped, and I couldn't escape my experience. So that was the first thing, losing my mind to gain a new one. Learning how to love, learning how to feel, learning how to embrace people, learning how to respect people, learning how to love myself, learning how to be patient and not put so much pressure on myself, learning how to forgive myself, learning how to not blame myself for things that wasn't my fault. So that was the elevation of me, and sacrificing the pain that I've been through, and sacrificing the person that so many men become, right? Because like they say, men are, oh, be tough, be strong, be hard, right? But that man, that style and blueprint of manhood was destroying me. I couldn't be a father with that perspective. I couldn't be loving. I couldn't be caring. And so many men don't know how to express themselves because at a young age, I was abused. If I was crying, like my mother used to whoop me until I stopped crying. So I don't know how to feel because, they say, hey, you were raised this way. Right. So I was raised and cultivated into turning my emotions off. So I had to sacrifice that person to become the man that I am today.
I appreciate that. With that transformation, for those who may be experiencing that same road, is that a lonely process or is that a process that you hold on to many people that can help you along the way? What does that transformation look like? Is that something you have to sit in the dark alone and really change? Or how do you go about that process to developing yourself?
Well, souls are not one size fit all. What worked for me may not work for you, and may not work for another person, right? So even that's what I do with my life and working on books, courses, and I do one-on-one sessions, and I help people with some of my strategies and techniques. So I can't give a one size fit all, and this is what someone will do, and this is what they'll go through, because we all live different, we all feel different. So what worked for me, and it was a roller coaster. It was a dark space. It was I equate it to a cocoon, right? So if you take a caterpillar and you think of the caterpillar's environment before it enters the cocoon to become the butterfly, right? In that transition is dark. In that transition, it's lonely, right? But imagine the caterpillar ripping out of the cocoon because it's dark and because they're afraid, right? So I had to go through a lot of uncomfortable moments. It's sort of like a mourning process. I had to mourn myself. I had to isolate myself, so it's so many different phases. And then that's why I say, like, we process life in three ways: mentally, emotionally, physically. I had to go through an emotional process. I had to go through a mental process, and I also had to go through a physical process. So it's different spaces where you have to heal. One, I had to heal my mind of the thoughts so I could not be triggered over and over and over again. I didn't trust adults. I didn't trust myself. I didn't love myself. So it's one thing in healing the mind, and it's another thing with healing the heart. So it's so many different phases and so many different approaches based on who and what the experience is. But for me, uh, everything. Like I always say, problems only mean you're alive, right? So in healing and growing, you go through life, right? You go through life. So everything that life comes with, like, you look at the day, it's darkness, it's light, right? So I went through darkness, right? I went through moments where it was beautiful. I went through moments, and there's no such thing as healed. I call it the ING words, like growing, living, learning, healing. You're always healing, you're always growing. So, you know, but everything you can imagine, every emotion, every up and down, every battle. And I don't look at it in a I don't look at it in a negative way. I value the process of life, right? Pain is a teacher, and pain comes with two things: pain and information. But sometimes we're so connected to the pain that we miss the information, right? My pain taught me more than anybody. So again, when you say what taught me, right? So pain is another component, right? So you look at you look at kung fu, jujitsu, monks, ninjas, how they break bricks with their hand. The same pain that they learn how to endure, me and you will have to go to the hospital for, right? They break bricks with their hand and hair. Like, me and you,
Yeah,
we going to the hospital,
yeah.
you know? So pain taught me so much. Like I said, I've been through extreme pain when I was young, to the point that, you know, at first I did not connect with the pain. And at first, I distracted myself from feeling pain. Now my tolerance of pain is level. So the things that hurt some people won't really get to me. But at the same time, I do embrace whenever I feel emotions and whenever I feel things that I'm supposed to process. Because like I say, emotions is energy in motion. So you have to allow your mind, your heart to go through the process of rendering life. And that's all trauma and anxiety is. It's the rendering process of your experience. So when we go through things, it's like if you watch a snake eat a deer, and that deer is a bump, right? So sometimes our pain and trauma is processing, right? And some people run from the process. And that's what creates anxiety, that you're trying to block the feelings. You're trying to block the emotions. You're trying to distract yourself. And as long as you do that, you're gonna have a long life to live, because you have to let your experiences process through your mind and process through your heart. So
I love this. I love this conversation. I love this flow that we're having. I want to get off, some of the deep topics and get into some light stuff, just quick stuff, quick hit questions, nothing serious. What have you procrastinated on and why?
uh doing this, right, talking, because my background is in directing. So I used to make music videos,
Nice.
even with my son traveling the world. So I never wanted to be on a camera. I never wanted to be on a camera. I never wanted to be a public person. But for years, everybody who knew me, everybody, like my son, been in Forbes, been on Good Morning America, Dr. Oz, Steve Harvey show, all of these shows. And I turned them all down. My son was offered TV shows. And even when I used to direct, so I never wanted to do this. So I could put that with procrastination, because I could have helped millions of more people. So even with social media, like August 8th made a year since I've been consistent on TikTok, and a year on Instagram. So some people see me and see my stuff and they think I've been doing this for years. August 8th really made a year since I've been consistent. It's just I connected so quick. So if I could say procrastination, I'll say giving myself to the world and helping people.
Let's pivot and I'm gonna ask you this question now. This is an awesome conversation because you and I both have sons that get to travel the world. My son is a little bit younger than yours, but describe that feeling. I also come from a home where for a short time I didn't have a father as well. Describe that feeling that you now can be a better father with intent through your life experiences. What is that feeling like for you, directly for you? How does it feel to give him this advancement and this opportunity to see the world and not just the neighborhood and not just his surroundings?
I'd say, and that's the funny thing, like, cause you said earlier, serious topics, and to me, it's like, I talk about this stuff so much.
I know, but see, the basis of this show is to help people that don't have the basics intact. All the things you've been saying have been great, right? It poses a question of self-love, of self-intake to see what you're doing, how you're balancing. And the point of this show, even though they watch different episodes of people answering the same types of questions, everyone gives their own soul answer. You said, well, no one size fit all. So pieces of this environment, pieces of this information helps people develop something where they can take and flourish.
I agree. I think I'm still rendering that, man. I think I'm still processing that because a lot of my son's journey, I was still in survival mode. I was still figuring myself out, and I did a lot of it out of
Right.
love. I did a lot of it out of love because it's what my son wanted to do. I got custody of my son at 4 years old, and that was a whirlwind. I wasn't ready at the time. Homeschooled my son, so to travel the world and just live and just do all these things that we did, it's still rendering, even me now, like I'm doing this stuff, which I had no idea. My son actually took a break in 2020, but I'll say that is still rendering, even for him. Like my son, it was literally like last year, because every year they celebrate my son for Black History Month, and all these schools post him up. And he said, Dad, man, what did I do? Like he's still rendering how amazing and how like big he actually did it as a young speaker, being able to talk for an hour and 40 minutes, like he just, so the phenomenon is still rendering in him. I don't think he's going to get it until he get older. And I think collectively, when I see my journey or however it's captured and me and my son's journey and story, even now I got almost 8 hard drives of traveling the world, like when it's put together in a movie and documentary. But of course, like it wasn't even the traveling, just better life, period. Like being there for my son. Like, because I always say, a man that grew up without a father can heal himself by being there for his son. So that made me happy. That made me feel all the joy in the world, just being there, just talking to him, just connecting with him, just a high five, just holding his hand, just picking him up when he used to lay on my chest, and just everything. I just acknowledged him, and I just treated him like he was me, because I know how it feels not to have a father. I know how it feels to walk down the street and stare in grown men's faces, wondering if I'm walking past my father. So I just showed up for me, meaning I showed up for my pain. I showed up for the nights I cried, and I gave my heart and soul, and I still do to this day. But so it wasn't even the traveling. So that's why I say, like, so
I,
it's
I
just
mean, I
beautiful.
just wanted to hear what you had to say because I can relate. It's a different energy, man. It's a different
Yeah.
energy that makes me get up and move for my son. No matter if I depleted myself throughout the
Hmm.
day, he has a different fuel tank that I got to get up and use for him. And I just
Hmm.
think it's amazing to hear another Black man speak so highly of his kids. You know what I'm saying? Especially on
I
a media
appreciate
platform where, a lot of times we don't get that light, brother. You know what I'm saying? So I
it. Nah,
appreciate you.
every time I speak is what I do, and that's why, again, in hindsight, I'm like, man, if I would have jumped in front of this camera earlier and did this and did this, and there's no telling what me and my son will be today. But everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah,
I'm
you
guessing,
spoke you spoke about flow, so we just letting it flow right now. You
yeah,
right on
yeah,
time.
yeah, I agree.
How important is it to leave where you're from to develop yourself to where you're going?
Mm. For me, that was big. Uh, that was really everything. That was everything for me. So our first place, me and my, cause I was traveling as a director, California, North Carolina, like just traveling, St. Louis, shooting music videos, documenting things. So for me, when I got the opportunity to travel and see that the world was just not my environment, to see that people are not just one way, and that there's many different mindsets and thought processes and many different spaces and attitudes and lifestyles, and you get to see your environment as this small place and this small puzzle piece of the world. It was a major part of my development and awareness. So a lot of times we like to say that we're products of our environment, but what people have to understand is that your environment is a product. Someone make the rules for your environment. Someone creates the blueprint. Someone has the floor plan for your block, for your community. So when it comes to your education, when it comes to your curriculum, someone is choosing the books. Someone is choosing what you learn. So that is not a good concept to say that you're a product of your environment. You have to understand that someone is creating your environment. So if someone is creating your environment, you believe that you're a product of your environment, then they're creating you. So it's an amazing thing to get out of your environment so you can understand that concept. Even as you land, when you land and you see that, you see your town or your state is a little pebble, and you land and you see it become big, but it's just a small blip of the world. And traveling the world, seeing new people, meeting new coaches, learning new information, meeting new people, it's one of the beautiful things for me, and it's a major part of my development. And I encourage so many people to get out there, not only physically but mentally. Allow yourself to read books. Allow yourself to go into a space where you leave with the information. Because once I did start to read and just educate myself, I learned how to live in the information. I learned how to, also I learned, like, when my son went to Africa and then heard about it, it was two different things. Like he landed there, his feet touched the ground. So that becomes, his story instead of history. Because with history, sometimes it gets misinterpreted on someone else's perspective. But
Mm-hmm.
when you get to see it, breathe it, smell it, live it, touch the people with your own two eyes, that becomes a book of your journey.
All
You
right,
know.
two questions I have for you here. Tell me the last time you had a cultural development where you came into a situation where you seen something for the first time and it was actually like, wow, this is brand new for me. Like, describe that feeling or what it was. And then I'll ask you the second question after that.
Mm-hmm. Something that was brand new for me. I'm trying to think of the first thing that popped up. Something that was brand new for me. Something that was brand new. What was the last brand new thing for me? I don't know. This
Yeah.
talking,
Hey,
talking, getting
I,
used to
I take
getting
that
you.
because you say you've been, pushing it to the side, waiting for that development. When you talk about your experiences and when you talk about where have you been, you traveled, the things you've taken on, the shows your son done, the things that you've done, how hard is it for you to communicate with people who have not yet opened up this pathway to their vision? And when you're trying to have a conversation, do you try to convince people or you just lower the expectations of the content? What is your process?
That's one of my gifts. I have a great way of communicating with people through my journey of special ed, foster homes, not learning. I always say it's a difference between being dumb and stupid, right? You're stupid, quote unquote, or ignorant if you never had the opportunity to learn. So I grew up foster homes and different things. So a lot of things got pushed to the back burner, right? So I was ignorant because I had a limited ability or limited access to information. But you're dumb if you have the access, the books, the will to get up and do, and you choose to stay that way, right? So when you can get up, when you can change your life, when it's in your own hands and you don't choose to do that, that's when you become responsible. That's when you are an accomplice to your conditions, right? So what was your
Love
question
that.
again? What was your
I
question
love
again?
that. I love that. How hard it is for you to
Okay,
access
okay,
content and
I
conversation.
got you. I
Yeah.
got you right. So my gift is that I have like two operating systems, right? So I travel this whole world and I see how like brilliant people lose the minds of people that's learning because they speak to people like they think. And people don't learn like that, right? Even though, and it's 5 different learning styles, right? So like I said, I'm closer to being like, and people look at dumb and ignorant like it's a negative thing. Whether you're creating music or you're drawing or painting a picture, when you paint a picture, like you're more creative when you have a blank canvas. When you're producing a beat, I used to make beats. When I first started making beats, I was making the same beat over and over again because I got a favorite sound, a favorite tempo, and I was using all the same sounds, right? But I tapped into my creativity when I stopped thinking about all sounds and I started just doing anything, right? So silence, ignorance, quote unquote, meaning like I'm going to approach tomorrow as I know, as if I don't know anything, right? I'm going to approach people without judging them, without thinking what they're thinking, without thinking what they know. So ignorance is such a gift, right? So even in my brain, like I said, I operate from 2 operating systems. Me being that special ed kid, that's when I was my most creative. That's when I was my most innovative because I didn't have the pressure of learning a curriculum. Even high school, I never was indoctrinated. My mind was always free. I had the biggest thoughts, the biggest imagination. Even that's why I think me and my son connect so well because I wasn't an, I say a successful adult is a person that killed the kid inside of them, right? So I'm still a big kid in many ways in imagination and creativity. And I still am close to, like I said, being that kid that feel like I don't know anything. So I don't approach things like I know everything. And I don't approach people like I'm smarter than them. Right. So I know how to talk to a kid and tap into his soul. I know how to talk to a person and I know how to pick up on their rhythm and I know how to pick up on how they process information. So I don't speak over people's head. I don't speak over their mind. So, and I always say understanding can't be borrowed. Like when you say something, it means something completely different. Like when words leave your mouth, it hit the next person's ears completely different, especially if you don't give yourself time enough to listen to them. Communication is a rhythm. Language is a rhythm. Talking is a rhythm, right? So we all process information differently. So that's one of my big things. Like I listen, I process, and I know how to take a big thought and shrink it down and I know how to create analogies so you understand. So even if you see a lot of my content, that's what you'll see in the comments. Like, wow, I never thought of that like that, or I never, right? I know how to, and that's because my 2 brains operate. If I have a big thought, I know how to say, man, how would my 17-year-old self heard this thought? That didn't know how to write, read. I want to be able to get it. Okay, do I get it? Okay, now I got it. Okay, now I ball that message up and then I give it to the world. So I'm like, okay, it's not so dumbed down where it turned off a highly intelligent, intellectual person. And it's not so much over your head to where a person that's 10 years old won't get this thought. So I break it down like that.
Well, I appreciate that. Those listening, this is the tactic you can take. This is what you can do. Process yourself correctly. Now, I got a rather intrusive question, but maybe not for you because you said a lot of things don't bother you. But it's a 2-part question, and I'm going to ask you this question. You can either answer or just give a gem if you like.
Mm-hmm.
What was abusive to you that you thought was love?
Love.
Mm.
Love, right? So let me share this story with you. I was in love with being abused, right? Because every time my mother abused me, she told me she loved me. That's why she was doing it. All right. So let's unpack that.
I
This is
mean,
you have
yeah, let's definitely unpack that. But there's a point in the 80s and 90s where you heard that a lot. That was like cohesive in most households. But please continue.
So, like I said, when I did grow up, I went from the foster home from like when I was 6, turning 7, all the way to 14. When I was 14, I came back home. But you know, so I grew up with 2 older sisters, and I guess because my mother connected with them more, they got all the time, they got all the attention. And as for me, I never felt like I got my mother's attention. I never felt like I got my mother's love. So I would always be fighting for my mother's love. I would always be fighting for my mother's attention. And the one way I could get my mother's attention, if I was quote unquote being bad. So if I was bad, or if I did something wrong, or if I wasn't listening, one thing I could depend on, that my mother was going to beat me, that my mother was going to whoop me. So every day she whooped me, at least I was getting my mother's attention. At least I was getting her love that I yearned for. And I started to love that. I started to love being hit. I started to love being whooped. I started to love being, you know, going through that roller coaster. And it's so important for parents to understand that, like, words have power. Don't tell your children because you're hitting them or whooping them or beating them that you love them, because now they want to inflict pain back on the world, and they could have a perversion of that as being love, even to the point. It was one time I got hit by a car, and I was in the hospital about almost 2 weeks, like something like that. I don't remember the exact time. I got hit twice. One time I got hit by a car, nothing really happened. Like it kind of like hit my hat. I had a hat on when I was young. Hat fell off. I jumped back up, running around. So second time I got hit, the car like ran into my legs. I flew in the air, fell. But I don't really think I was that hurt. And it wasn't until like I seen my mother's face, right? And it's the first time I seen my mother care about me, like on her face. This is the first time I seen her care, and it was so mind blowing to me that I faked hurt to extract as much love from my mother ever, right? And that's where like my first interactions and encounters, because love is like an education, right? Like some people love on a second grade level, some people love on a college level, based on your interpretation and understanding of what love means. So for me, love was abusive, love was traumatizing, love was selfish, love was rare. I didn't have that many encounters with love, nor did I see my mother love or hug or express love. So like for most of us, we encounter love in our household, right? And when I say household, I mean household, right? Because your house has a hold on you. Some people still live the way that they were raised in a house. So for me, I would say love. You know, that was the most, however you worded it, like that was that. That's how I
Yeah.
looked at all of that.
I listen, that was excellent the way you explained. You made me think of a song called Love's Gonna Get You by KRS One, where he talks
Mhm.
about love in a certain way, but it's a different type of love where people are used to hearing it. Thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that. I appreciate that. When we talk about the caterpillar coming into the butterfly and the way your mom treated you, did that affect your transactions with women going forward in your life, trying to develop those relationships?
Most definitely. I had a big distrust for women. I had a hole in my heart for how I loved myself, because, like I say, my mother never taught me love. My mother never expressed love. My mother never gave love. And love, as like I process it now as a father, and loving my son. But you know, as time goes, like now me and my mother have a great relationship, and the healing work that I did and finding myself and learning myself, I have the opportunity to give my mother some of the same tools and information, but it definitely infected me because that was my education, right? So even when we say emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is like all intelligence. So it's the same way as if a person can't read and you give them a book, and you see that they're struggling with second grade words, that's their level. Even when people in relationships, um, a lot of people act childish when they become emotionally impacted. When they get mad, when they get angry, now they turn into a big kid slamming doors. Like they turn into the kid, because that's the last age that they process and learned how to intelligently interact with their emotions. So, because, like I said, when I was molested at 6, I shut down my emotional space, not to feel the pain that I was feeling and going through, on top of the abuse. And my mother saying I was acting like a little girl. I used to get hit and beat, and so I never wanted to act like a little girl. So I never wanted to cry. I never wanted to feel. So when you're dealing with women, you have to feel. Women are people who feel like they want to tell you and express themselves. They also want you to express yourself. So, like, when you can't speak a language, you don't know the words. I did not know the words to my feelings. I did not know the words to how I felt. It's the same way when your parents tell you don't touch the stove because it's hot. Imagine never registering what hot means. So you keep touching the stove, right? So I did not know how to, if you don't know how to feel, you're not going to have a good relationship with women, right? So that was another disconnect. I could not process women emotions. So if I made them sad, or if I made them, if I disrespected them, I did not know to what level I was disrespecting them. So I was just living, but inadvertently I was causing pain and harm to people and women. But that pain was deeply rooted in my upbringing.
Absolutely. You say you learned through pain, and that's how you really developed yourself, through different types of avenues. And I appreciate you being so transparent. Now, let me ask you this question. Now, this is one of the questions. We only have a few questions left. I'm not going to hold you too much longer. But this is one of the questions I like to ask, just to see where we all got it from. Most of the times I know the answer, but hey, let's talk about this. Did you ever get a sex talk? Who or what gave you sex education?
Rap videos. You know,
Exactly.
it wasn't a person, it wasn't people, it was music videos. That's where I got my first sex
Right.
education.
Most of us, right? Or got, talked to by people in the neighborhood asking, hey man, you watered that flower yet? Some type of weird metaphor they'll say to you. But as we are now, what is your process in developing young minds now to step into this very responsible situation that could lead to many things? It could lead to, a great time. It can lead to diseases. It lead to starting a family impromptu. What is the conversations we should have now, and from your perspective of sex education?
Um, well, the way me and my son interacted, and even at an early young age, I don't believe in the world teaching you anything before I teach you. So when my son was young, I showed
Oh,
him
I want to hear
everything.
this.
My son seen everything, birth, but everything through context, right? So when children randomly see a naked body or a naked woman, right? Of course they learn and they have feelings or they have sensations as they grow. But I show my son the context of a naked woman, her body parts, her giving birth, sexuality, right? And I never sugarcoated it, right? Sometimes we like to say grade, and we like to teach children based on, hey, you're in the first grade, you're in the second grade, goo goo gaga, right? I never treated my son like a quote unquote kid. I treated him like a soul that was learning information. So when it came to sex, I told him about every body part, every piece. We talked about diseases. We talked about, rape, molestation, on top of my issues and the things that I've been through. you know, I don't believe in sugarcoating. I don't believe in waiting till you argue. I don't believe in waiting till your children bring somebody in the house, or waiting to a certain age. If you wait to talk to your daughter when she get 18, that's too late. You wait till you talk to your son when they get 18, that's too late. My son was 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old, when I was showing him everything. But like I said, with context. Do you see this? This is this part. Do you see this? This is your body part. Hey, this is what you do. Hey, you have to be this way, this way. Make sure no one touch you this way. Make sure you don't touch. Make sure, okay, look, this is how children are made, because you're given an education, you're teaching. And then as they grow, now you can build on that information. But if you wait to get angry, if you wait to get upset, if you wait for something to happen to them, if you wait for them to see a movie, if you wait for them to go to school and people are showing pornography, right? The world is teaching them something, and now that's the shock, or now that's the limited amount of information, because you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. Your eyes allow you to vision, your mind allows you to see. So the more information you build in the mind, that's how the eyes interpret it. So when my son see a nudity, or a woman that's nude, he's not like, oh my God, look, body parts. No, this is the breast, this is the vagina, he knows the parts, the pieces. He's educated. So it's not catching him off guard. And even if he is aroused, or if he feels something, we talk about that. We talk about why it's appealing to the eyes. So I break it down, and I don't sugarcoat, and I look at it as educating a soul.
The way you go about this process, do you ever think there could be a basic training program in our neighborhoods where, let's say I was your neighbor and you taught these things and I taught these things? We taught financial literacy, communication, how to change a tire, gardening, generational wealth, talking to the elderly with intent. Do you ever think we can actually have a community-based process outside of the church, outside of the education system, outside of the library, where we're actually giving these life gems directly to our children in a community tribe fashion?
I think we should, and I think it's important. Even though I know a lot of coaches, because that's what you run into. You run into coaches. You run into the way people process life. Because when we have children, other than abuse or other than molestation, whatever the case, when you're a parent, I can't teach you or tell you how to operate with your children. You can't teach me how or tell me what to do with my children. So, but I definitely think we should have a place if people choose to go to, because some people may not feel comfortable, right? You have a lot of single parent households, and you may have a mother that don't want to talk to her son, because I run into that with so many different situations and things where women don't feel comfortable with their sons, and so you have so many, but I definitely think it should be a place, even outside of like school and their sex ed conversation. It should be a place where that information, or it should be accessed, and it should be promoted, and it should be normal conversation. So I definitely think so.
Yeah, I hope we get to that point. That's the point of some of these shows right here, just to put it in the minds of people. My question was for you, do you see yourself represented in entertainment and television? But I'm going to go ahead and skip that question, because I feel you're doing the due diligence right now to make sure we spread this growth. The gems you are dropping today have really grown me. And also, I believe the person, whoever listens to this, they're going to be enlightened 10 times over, and they're going to be able to move forward and actually spread the good word of good flow, or the flow, like you like to say. Just
Mhm.
continue the flow.
Life. Yeah.
Life. I want to poll you. I want to know the top 3 things you want in a woman. And I want to hear what you have to say with the top 3 things you would like in a woman. Then we got a couple more questions, and we're going to be halas. We're going to be done.
Okay. So because I do this every day, right?
Yeah, let's do
Because
it. I
like I
did.
say, I conduct one-on-one sessions. So already this year, hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's a big relationship problem in the world, right? So here's my philosophy, right? A relationship is nothing but human behavior, right? And then to me, right, there's no such thing as being single, because you're always in a relationship. That relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself, right? So when you ask yourself, are you faithful to yourself? Are you loyal to yourself? Are you committed to yourself? Are you honest with yourself, right? So a relationship in a woman, to me, is a mirror, right? So when I say, what are some of the things that I need for me, right? For me to be happy, for me to be balanced, for me to have alignment with myself, right? So with myself, in a relationship with myself, you know, commitment, commitment is a big component. When you understand commitment, you understand, and I'm not talking about commitment with abuse, right? Mental and emotional abuse, allowing yourself to stay somewhere just because you love someone. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about being committed to a soul, being committed to a journey, you know, really understanding and knowing why you bring value to a person, or a person brings value to you. And another one, empathy, right? So empathy, even in my own journey, it took me a long time to process my feelings, my emotions, and it took me to have empathy for my own experience. So with empathy, I feel what you're going through, and I can comprehend and fully understand, right? So commitment, empathy, and because a lot of times when you say love, like people say, hey, I need a person to love me, we don't understand that that's layered. Like if you say, hey, I need a person that believe in God, right? For thousands of people, God means many different things, right? So when you say I need a person to love me, somebody could love you, but what version of love are they loving you with? It could be a man that was raised in a household that watched his mother beat his father for 30 years. So and if he's abusive to you and you go, why are you hitting me? I thought you loved me. To him, he do love you. because he watched his mother be abused and his mother loved his father and they're still together, right? So it's so important to understand what version of love someone is loving you with, right? So empathy, commitment, and someone willing to grow based on new information.
Mm.
So those are my three things,
Would
right?
you
Because
characterize that someone willing to grow like intelligence, or how would you characterize that?
uh because right, sometimes we want the perfect person and we want to meet a person, right? So you could be attracted to a person. And this is why I say, right? Because sometimes I pose this question and I ask people what's their favorite cake. And people go, hey, chocolate cake, vanilla, right? But they don't know that they're only talking about the icing. Like that's not the cake. The cake, what is the cake made out of? What's the inside of the cake? So sometimes we date like that. We date the icing of a person. Oh, this person looks good. Oh, this person has a nice car. This person has a nice house. That's icing. That's not the person, right? So when you are in a relationship with a person, you have to know what the person is made out of, right? What have they been through? What are their experiences? What are their journey, right? And then now that person is going to change based on the interaction. Because when you get in a relationship, you're merging realities. You're getting that person's mindset, that person's habits, that person's belief system, that person's diet, that person's health history, right? And then same thing as yours. So now you guys are becoming one. Their trauma now is your trauma, their world, now you guys are one. So even like I always say, show me two people that loved one another, that separated, and I'll show you two people that ran out of information, right? So when you have a relationship that lasts, it's going to take more than looks. It's going to take more than a car, more than a house. It's going to take more than superficial things. It's going to take learning new information to guide one another into the future. So that's why I say I need a person open enough to when you learn something new, you're not afraid to grow past the person that you are currently, because that's the number one reason that people disagree. People don't disagree because other people are right or wrong. People disagree because they don't want to remove their comfort zone. So when you get in a relationship and you have a concept of manhood and this is who I am and this is what I do, it's going to be hard for you to have a successful relationship with longevity, right? So now people don't want to become a stranger to themselves. So now if you're 35 and you go, hey, and I reveal to you a new category of information, and you go, wow, now if this is right and I'm wrong, now I got to be vulnerable to learning this new information. But now it's like my life starts over, right? So I need a person that's not afraid to grow. I need a person that's not afraid to have a new wealth of knowledge and fall in love with the process of becoming.
Excellent answer, my friend. Let's continue. Now these next couple of questions, I just want you to pick one and explain why. Okay.
Okay. No problem.
As a husband, would you rather have a great woman or a
Okay.
great wife?
uh, a great woman. Wife is characteristics of the woman. I want a great woman, like you in your being, like you in who you are. I want you, like I said, there's no such thing as a relation. There's no such thing as being single. You're always in a relationship with yourself. So I want you to be whole in your womanhood. I want you to be balanced in your womanhood, right? And I want you to be equipped and solid within yourself. Um, because me, I want to be a solid, balanced, healed, whole, loving, caring, compassionate man before I'm a husband, right? Because that's like a title, that's a concept. But a man is like the feet. The husband is the shoe. Like, okay, I'm going inside, like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I love your analogies because I believe it spawns from always observing for the first 19 years and
Yeah.
learning to learn in that way. So I think that what makes you so unique and very important. Like
Mm-hmm.
the hindsight and the vision you have. I love your analogies because many times I talk in analogies and people look at me like, where did you get that from? Like I came from
Yeah.
observing just like you. Sometimes you have to observe in situations that we grew up in. Sometimes you have to observe environments and understand that energy is shifting and it needs you need to make a move yourself. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because it's like a vehicle. Like the car don't make the man. The man, so it's like if you're a woman and you go, wow, he's handsome because he got a nice car. Okay, but he got to come out of there. When he out the car, do you like him? Do you like him in the house now? Do you like him? Do you like him in do you like him in conversation? Do you like him when you interact with him? Like he can have a Bentley Rolls Royce, but if he's empty, if he can't talk, like, okay, so it's the same thing. Like if you don't like that man, then how can you like him as a husband?
He
You know
got
what
a
I'm saying?
car.
Yeah.
That's
No,
pretty funny. That's
seriously.
pretty funny. If they were giving
Seriously.
if they were giving out awards, would you
Mhm.
rather have Father of the Year or Man of the Year?
uh well, again, father is the shoe again, you know. So like I said, sometimes we become even though it's an honor, and father has been my highest level of education, right? So if I say like the things that taught me the most, pain, fatherhood, I got a degree in fatherhood, like I'm a doctor in fatherhood, you know. Fatherhood taught me the most. Fatherhood taught me how to love myself. Fatherhood taught me how to embrace the journey, to grow, to every day. Fatherhood, it pulls you in so many different directions. So first, man, right? Because like I told you, like that is the core, you know. But fatherhood is not my full identity.
That's
First,
awesome.
I have to be a great man first. You know, I have to love myself as a man. You know, I have to know myself as a man. You know, and be balanced as a man to be the father that I
I think you just wrote a new book, A Degree in Fatherhood. That's pretty cool.
am.
You should take
Yeah,
that and run with it. All I'm saying.
yeah. All day I talk books. That's like the people that work with me. But all that stuff. Look, I gotta tell you, it's not like seeing your imagination in person. Even with this year, I'll be completely honest with you, man. The way like I brand and even with my son, like I used to get I used to be uncomfortable with how my body used to register my journey. And if I tell you the glimpses and the feelings that I get from just processing myself and how people interact with the way I communicate is like real soon, I'm not even gonna have time for myself. Like I'm going to be all and I could like other than like physical and health, but being here and being practical and wherever you upload this, whoever watch this, right? Just watch. They're gonna be like, oh, he knew, right? Because I used to do this with my son. I like it's posts that come from like 7 years ago or 10 years ago, and I'm like, man, my son gonna be the biggest, blah 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 blah. And like I said, I was already speaking it, and it's not arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's the rhythm of life. It's how life is processing back to me. It's how people send me a whole article of like, man, look, this no one I never heard this, and it's like, um, I'm not even gonna be in control of my life soon, like this. As far as like how many, I'm gonna be talking to thousands. Like my son already spoke to 20,000 people. Like, so it's like even processing that. Like I'm processing that because it's like now I'm looking at my son like, wow. Now it's coming into like like you talk to 20,000 people. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning like 100, 200, and because I got the information, but just having the information is completely different when you're on stage and you're speaking it and
Oh yeah,
even interviews and all of this. But
absolutely. I
it's,
think
it's, it's going
the
to get
development,
chaotic.
yeah, the development when you're in it, when you're working through something, if you're passionate, you don't really lift your head up to see how high the building is. You're just gonna keep adding brick by brick or whatever layers that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop and look up, you don't even remember when you started. You be like, man, I did all of this. Wow. Oh, so off to the next building. That's the type of,
Yeah.
it's like type of people you get encouraged to move forward. We talked about legacy, but some of us, most of us ignore major steps. Do you have a will?
A will as far as what?
Will in terms of information left for your son, insurance, these things, just in case of death, just in case of so many things that get taken away from us because most of us fail to have the proper paperwork in place for the society that we live in to
No,
transition?
no. And not to say, because I talk about death. I talk about death. But as far as paperwork and put that down now, and okay, maybe that's something I should do or whatever the case. But no.
I encourage everyone to just look into it and start to get it done. Even if you feel you have nothing to give, let's just start having our paperwork done in our community, because we lose many things. We lose land, we lose houses, we lose bank accounts, and it just all goes back to people that never knew us or didn't work a scrap for what we wanted to intend to pass down. That's
I
all.
agree.
I came up with something called operating at 100%. And what I mean by that is I took 5 categories: purpose, health, confidence, money, and knowledge. It's sort of in the same line of what you said, 30%, 30%, 30%. But I call it operating at 100%. 20% for purpose, 20% for health, 20% for confidence, 20% for money, and 20% for knowledge. So I ask you, Mr. Dash, within the last 24 hours, within this spectrum of operating at 100%, what is your current percentage?
It's funny because I teach something like that in my sessions. Um, you said today?
Yeah, the last 24 hours.
Man, today was one of the first days in a long time. I got some rest. But to me, that's 100% because you can't operate if you're tired. And today I slept. Today I got some good sleep. And
Same
I and
here.
I and I and
Same
I
here.
needed it. Because like
But
I
now,
said, like
don't
if
forget
I
now, let me tell you, let me break it down. Purpose is that you're doing your purpose every day, which you are doing now. You're stopping your procrastination, you're on the internet, you're doing what you need to do. Health
mm,
is, did you exercise, eat right? If you meditate, if you do those things to get yourself aligned, did you do that?
that's a habit. That's regular for me. That's
I'm asking.
yeah, that's regular. That's regular.
Now,
That's
did you
normal.
do it? Did you do it with confidence without any unhealthy fear?
That's well, I don't you
You
said
don't
unhealthy
consider
fear.
you don't consider nothing unhealthy. I got you.
No,
I
no, no.
get.
Yeah, because you said, look, even look at my life, right? If you have the opportunity, right? So people have God, the universe, the creator, whatever someone concept is, right? And if God gave you the opportunity to remove things out of your life, right? So of course, if I was a kid and you asked me, hey, do you want to be molested? I'll say, hey, no, I don't, right? But in hindsight, right? And I'm a firm believer. Look, remember I told you like I learned from things, right? So videography and cameras. I'll show you what cameras showed me. And that's why I say your perception and perspective controls your reality. Listen to that. Your perception and perspective controls your reality. This is what cameras showed me. So sometimes we'll be shooting and we'll have 3, 4 cameras, 5 cameras in the room. And based on what footage or what storage card I take out, I could show you a left angle and you'll go, oh, why he do that? Why would he do that? And I go, okay, yeah, okay, all right. And then I show you the middle of the room. I show you the middle angle of the camera. And you go, oh, so that ain't even happen. I ain't even see that in this angle. Oh man, I was crazy. I thought he ran him over, right? Because of how the camera was angled, you couldn't see another side of the spectrum, right? But if you take time to look at life, if you take time to look at the room from every angle, it'll give you a different direction. It will give you a different thought process. So even in life, and like I said, like I didn't have a father, but it taught me how to be a father. It taught me how to tap into the love that I wish I knew and wished and dreamed and prayed for. I didn't obtain it in my journey as a child, but I learned how to give it. I learned how to cultivate it and nurture it and love and show up for my son. Being molested, you know, um, taught me how to be an advocate, taught me how to speak up. It also taught me strength and endurance, right? So in hindsight, or in a life where someone will go, oh, I'm mad that I went through this and I'm mad that I didn't have a father, right? No, I processed all the emotions and feelings and the journey of all of those things that I've been through. And they all are major ingredients. If my life was a meal and you looked at the ingredients, these things are a part of the ingredients that I had to go through to become this me. So even when you say good fear, like there's no bad puzzle piece. You know, you may have a hard time finding where it goes, but when you put the puzzle together, you're like, oh man, it's beautiful, right? So
Absolutely.
sometimes we want to do the easy thing. We build the outside first, like, oh yay,
You build the etch a
okay,
sketch.
yeah, but the middle and like all of those parts are gonna be challenging, but it's a part of the puzzle, right? So my journey as a child, foster home, not knowing how to write, read. So even homeschooling my son, I homeschooled my son from 4th grade to 10th grade. He went back to school all A's. That 4th grade year, he didn't even know how to read, writing his letters backwards. That first year, he was reading on a 7th grade level. On top of me still struggling academically, I had to learn some of the things I was teaching him. On top of traveling the world and doing all of these things that we were doing, this was behind the scenes, right? So I'm not ashamed of my ingredients. I'm not afraid of my ingredients. I honor it. I understand it. I value it. It's a part of it, you know, and I acknowledge it and I speak it. So that's what traps a lot of us from living life to the fullest.
Ingredients is credence. Thank you, sir. You are now part of the Silhouette Boys Club. It is people like you who move in the shadows to help people like me shine and others. Now, before you go, we love to get referrals for the show. Is there anyone else you would love to see that you could put me in contact with that you would love to come and drop these gems and answer these questions?
Let me tell you two things, right? I'm just getting to know you, right? Super, 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 and like like I said, I slept today, so I was like, I was kind of dragging, but I'm happy, I'm grateful. Uh, you're super professional, super clear. I love your style. Like you're gonna go far. I don't know how big your show is or whatever the case, and I hope this do great for you. You know,
Thank
even
you.
wherever I go, because I love your style. But if it was up to me, I'll get the biggest. Like I'm a person that I go above and beyond for people that I feel is great, that I feel is professional. So if it was up to me, because I know a lot of people, what would I get for you? And it depends, because it's like a great interview, a great interview. I get a young man named Marquise from Georgia. Even though I know, like I said, I know celebrity, I'm talking about value, somebody that respect your time, somebody that will be honored to do the show.
Hey,
His name is Marquise. He's 17. He's a very motivational, inspiring young man, and so I'll say Marquise. And if
Marquise.
my son was doing this, I'll say my son. But my son, he took his break. He's enjoying life. Marquise.
Marquise, definitely. So we'll get in contact here. Now, before you go as well, we love to hear anything you like say, any closing remarks, any social media shout outs, anything information where people can stay in contact with you.
Uh, Dash Hudson _ and everything. Even though I think I'm gonna change that soon, just so I can have everything flowing. But I'm still in my building process. Like I said, I didn't even know I was gonna grow this fast on social media. But I want you guys to know that I interact from a soul level. People call it vulnerability. I call it truth. I always say, if you've never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in front of anyone. I speak like I'm living in my memory. I'm not afraid to be honest. I'm not afraid to be true. I'm not afraid to be genuine. A lot of people need to live on a soul level. Sometimes we're living in a character. Sometimes we're living in fear. Sometimes we're living always thinking about what other people are going to think. It is a beautiful thing to tap into your truth, to tap into your story, to tap into your life and speak from that place. So for anyone that's following my journey, anyone who become aware of me from this, just understand that I am a soul with skin on, right? Some people turn into their character. I will never be a character. Um I will never operate in ego. I will never operate in celebrity. I'm operating in truth, and I will always speak from that place. So um just anyone who's following my journey and embracing my journey, hopefully you can feel where I communicate from. And I said I don't want to get into, but Instagram _ Hudson _ and
We'll put all of that in the credits for you at the bottom.
yeah.
Make sure they get to it and see it. I want to thank you for coming on today. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. One of the biggest takeaways for me in this show, I just get to talk to men one-on-one, and I get to ask these same questions, but I also get it, what I can take away from myself. I guess that's the extra piece for me. I get to actually talk to men and get some actual insight, and we have back and forth dialect. And I hope anyone listening today, no two souls are alike, no two fingerprints are alike, but I hope this helps add to your puzzle board and growing yourself in development in terms of manhood, solutions for single moms who may be raising boys, and etc. And thus far. Thank you for coming on today, Mr. Dash. For those listening, you can reach me at solutionsformen@gmail.com to be a guest on the show. We take all men anytime. We want to hear from you because everyone has a story that can help us all. Before we go, we end with a quote from Dr. Miles Monroe. True success is not measured by how much you have done or accomplished. It's not compared to what others have done or accomplished. True success is what you have done compared to what you could have done. In other words, living to the maximum is competing with yourself. It's living with your own true standards and capabilities. Success is satisfying your own personal passion and purpose in pursuit of personal excellence. Question of the day, question of your life. Are you maximizing your life? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been SOULutions for Men's podcast. Mr. Dash Hudson, we thank you. Peace and blessings.
Cause I'm out the ordinary, 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 out the ordinary.